Hello,
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Latonia.
Latanya, yes.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Uh, you may go ahead and mispronounce my name as much as you like.
No, I'll try to get it right. Pronounce it for me. Sid?
Oh, just Dr. Sid is fine.
Okay, Doctor Sid. I'm learning the site, so when I seen it, I couldn't get on yesterday until late last night, so I'm still learning everything.
Well, that's okay. I know it's a little different than what you're used to at GCU, so it takes a little while to get familiar with it.
Right.
We'll give people a few more minutes.
Okay, I'm doing it early because I didn't want to get stuck and I didn't know if my computer was going to do it. I have a call on the phone. I just want to make sure I keep up as much as possible.
Right, right. No, I know. I had a meeting before this and I had to kind of go real quick to get in. So,
Okay. Do I need to take a lot of notes?
no, because this is being recorded.
Oh, it's being recorded? Okay.
Yes, and I will put up the recording tomorrow.
Okay. And so this is like where we ask a lot of questions, or it's just an overview of everything that we're
Well,
gonna.
we're going to do a preview tonight, an overview, but you get to ask questions also.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
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 So we'll have a little agenda each night that we do this,
Okay.
and then people can ask whatever questions they want.
Okay. So I know I looked on the calendar and it was one today, and then they have something tomorrow. So is recommended that we try to make as many
Yes,
appearance on them as possible?
yes.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I understand people can't make them all,
Right. Right.
uh, but um, but again, all of them are going to be recorded.
Okay, I got you.
So they're going to be five altogether, one for each of the stages.
Okay, I got you. The first time I'm early for something. I take that as a good thing.
I don't know. My wife is usually late too, so I'm used to that.
Right.
When I married her, her father told me to tell her a time that was 15 minutes before I really wanted her.
Me too. I'm just like I'm always like I'm right, either right there or 5 minutes late. Always, never fails. My kids say you're gonna be late for your own funeral. I say, well, it's my funeral then.
Right? They can't start without you anyway.
Can't start without the star, right?
So, are you ready for student teaching?
I am excited. I'm still waiting to see what school I'm gonna be in yet. They haven't told me what school I'm gonna be in. Either the high school. I was teaching for a year. I had a provisional certification,
Uh huh.
but it was so many components that I had to take that a year wasn't really enough because I was actually teaching, doing IUPs, and trying to keep up with the paperwork and everything with it, which was a lot, and going to class online at night. So it was really a lot for me to keep up. But I'm hanging in there. I'm not gonna give up.
Good. I'm sure you're going to do fine.
Yeah, I'm hanging there.
And,
They
and
said it
maybe you'll even get me as a teacher. Who knows?
right.
Poor person, you. Anyway, I see we have a few more customers or victims, whichever.
Yeah, see.
One of them is named iPhone. Oh, I think we have a young person.
Let us get in pool.
Okay. Good, we're getting up there now. Okay, I think what we're going to do is we will get started. There may be people who join us later on, but I think we'll go ahead and get going anyway.
Okay.
So what I'm going to ask you all to do for the moment is just mute yourselves so that if your dog starts barking or your neighbor's dog starts barking or whatever, we don't all hear that. So if you would mute yourselves to begin with, and then I will give you opportunities to ask questions. So I see that we have, let's see, Jennifer is here now, Jasmine I see, and somebody named iPhone. I'm not sure who that is. Okay. All right, I've muted you just for the time being. And you will have an opportunity to ask whatever questions you want to. But let's go ahead and get started. Tonight we're going to be talking to you about, I'm going to be talking to you about some of the things you need to know as we begin looking at EdTPA. Now, EdTPA is done with 3 states at GCU, New York, Georgia, and Wisconsin. It is a professional knowledge assessment. There are a variety of components of EdTPA, and we will talk about them tonight. As candidates for student teaching, you are going to need to familiarize yourself with the resources that we have. Many of them are on the PLN, where you should already have been. Develop a plan of action. An EdTPA acknowledgement, frankly, I'm not exactly sure what that means, so we'll skip that part. Okay. Candidates applying for initial certification in New York, Georgia, and Wisconsin will be required to take and pass the EdTPA. Now, please understand, this is not a GCU requirement. This is a requirement that is set up by your state. And so if you were looking for ways to change it or to do something else, you would need to go to your state legislature because they are the ones who have brought this program into their education departments. EdTPA is a student-centered, multiple measure assessment of teaching. Through completion of EdTPA, teacher candidates will demonstrate knowledge of pedagogy with video and written reflections to provide evidence of student learning. Remember, data and evidence are extremely important as we go into this. Notice also, by the way, that I said that EdTPA is a student-centered multiple measure assessment. it is not, excuse me, it is not teacher-centered. In other words, they want to see what the student has learned, not necessarily what you have taught. And there is a distinction. For example, EdTPA is not at all really interested in your behavioral techniques that you use to manage the class. You don't have to write a lot about your classroom management philosophy because they're not interested in it. Frankly, because you're doing special education, you're only going to need to track one focused student. Now, that's different than the other EdTPA assessments. Therefore, you're going to want to try and have that student as close to being alone with you as possible when you do your EdTPA lessons. Teacher candidates must complete EdTPA while in their student teaching placement. Now, all of you, I know, are going to pass EdTPA spectacularly. I know it. However, there are possibilities if you do not pass, depending on the state that you live in. But you do need to complete it during your student teaching. Teacher candidates will use national standards and they will be scored through a national website. So the standards that they are going to be using for EdTPA in your student teaching course are the same standards that we would use in the student teaching course if you were not doing EdTPA. The assignments and the rubrics are quite similar, although the work is different for both of them. So they're going for the same goal, but they're coming at it in a different way. Okay. The assessments. The EdTPA shifts the definition of effective teaching from successfully delivering the curriculum to having a positive impact on student learning. So the question is not, have we gotten through all of the material? The question is, how have I affected student learning? And there is a difference. EdTPA asks candidates to compile a portfolio. So this is very different than the state tests or the praxis test, where you go in, you sit in front of a computer, you take the test, either you pass, you fail, or you do it again. This is quite different. It is a portfolio. So what you're going to do is you are going to create a learning segment. Now, EdTPA tends to have its own language because they like to confuse you. I don't know if that's true, but it happens. A learning segment is a unit. So a 3 to 5 lesson unit. Okay? So you're going to develop a unit of instruction with 3 to 5 lessons. It all has to be on the same subject. So if you are teaching math, then you may want to teach, you're teaching fractions. You can't do fractions one day, division the next day, and English language the third day. This has to be a comprehensive, cohesive unit of instruction. You are going to need to make sure that your learning goal is the same for all of your lessons. It is very important. Now, EdTPA is broken down into 3 tasks. First, there is planning and instruction and assessment. We just call it planning. That's why I kind of fumbled over that. The planning task is exactly what you would think it is. That's when you create your lesson plans. When you're going to be answering prompts about the strategies that you're going to use. You're going to be providing samples of worksheets or assignments and assessments that are blank, just so that we see everything that you are planning to do for your lesson. The second task is instruction. This task is the actual teaching of your unit. And you are going to videotape those lessons. Now, there are restrictions on how much videotape you can use and those kinds of things. We will talk about that as time goes on. You don't need to absolutely know that tonight. Finally, the third task is assessing student learning. You need to analyze your teaching. You need to pay attention to academic language. We are going to have another session, I think tomorrow night, where we talk about academic language. And you're going to discuss what you might have done differently or your next steps. What do you think the student needs now to move forward? All of these tasks, these 3 tasks, will be documented with evidence. Candidate commentaries. You're going to do 4 commentaries. 1 is contextual, and that goes in your planning section, just telling the scorer a little bit about your school and your student. Then for each of the other 3 tasks, you will have a commentary sheet. And on that sheet, you will answer prompts so that you write about your planning, instruction, and assessment. You will use instructional artifacts, including student work, and then 1 to 2 unedited video clips of teacher-student interaction. You are allowed 20 minutes. You may do 1 video of 10 minutes and 1 video of 10 minutes, but you may not do any longer than 20 minutes. The artifacts that you will submit will be judged on 5 components of teaching practice: planning, instruction, assessment, analyzing teaching, and academic language. You will provide evidence for the analyzing teaching component across all the tasks. Okay. Your first step in this should be to go on the PLN and find, I think you're all in this group, special ed, find the materials for special education. You will see, if you look to the left of the EdTPA group space, you will see a big purple dot that says EdTPA materials. You go there, you find the correct handbook under special education. Download that along with the commentaries, which are also there. So you're going to download the handbook, and you are going to download 4 commentary templates. If you are not doing special ed, find the correct handbook for your subject and download that handbook. And again, unless you're doing elementary education, where you would have 5 templates, download the 4 templates. Okay, I'm going to stop here for a second, and you can unmute yourselves if you have questions. All right, I'll unmute you. Okay, questions so far? Everybody's unmuted except for, there you go, very good. All right, I thought we lost you there. Is it Regan or Reagan?
Reagan.
Reagan, okay.
Like the president, yep.
I thought we lost you there for a minute, Reagan.
No.
Okay. Were you the mysterious iPhone, or was that Tracy?
Tracy.
Oh, okay. There you go. Although these days I don't put it past anyone to give their kids a name like iPhone, especially if they're celebrities, you know. Okay, I will be happy to take questions so far. There are no questions.
I have one.
Okay.
With the video, you said no longer than 20 minutes. Okay, could it be like less than 20 minutes, maybe 15, 16, 17 minutes, something like that?
Listen, you're going to be teaching 3 lessons. Mm-hmm. What you're going to want, 3 to 5 lessons. What you're going to want to do is tape everything. Okay. And then go back and edit out the parts that you want. So okay. Really, the amount of stuff, the amount of video you send depends on how it fits with the commentary that you wrote. The purpose of the video is to provide evidence or to illustrate how you taught the student, how the student learned. And so that's what you're going to look for. You just can't do more than 20 minutes.
Okay.
And be careful about that because they are picky.
Okay.
Yep. Other questions?
I actually have one. In doing the video, you said with special education, you only have to have, you're videoing instruction to one student. Do Correct. We need to, when we're doing the videos, I know in the past from other teachers, they video the whole classroom and then kind of focus on certain kids. Do we need to video the whole classroom as we're doing our lesson plan, or do we just pull the one kid to the side and just do the lesson with them?
If I were you, I would just pull the one kid to the side. You do not have to. In some of the other handbooks, like elementary, you need at least 5 or 6 kids to make up a quote unquote class. In special education, you only need 1. And so the more interaction that you can have with your 1 student, the easier this process is going to be.
I have a question.
Yes.
It has to be that same student each time I do the lesson, each lesson. It has to be that one particular student. It can't be like use 3 students at a different interval.
No, it has to be the same student. So,
Okay.
you know, when you go into your classrooms, please don't think that you're going to be able to do this the first week and get it done. Okay? That's not how it works. Trust me, nothing is that easy. So what you're going to find is you will need some time to really get to know the students and see with whom you develop a really good rapport. That's going to be really important. So yes, but you have to use the same student throughout. Any other questions? Okay. Let's take a look, since you're all being quiet. I'll let you, well, I won't mute everybody again. So what do you need to do for task 1? You would select a student and complete the template context for learning information. You know what? That's just basic demographics. Who is the student? What is the school? Socioeconomics, demographics. By the way, does anyone know how we can determine socioeconomic demographics in schools?
If it's a Title I school or something like that?
Well, no.
No.
Okay. The only way you can do it is free and reduced lunch.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's the only way that you can tell. Because we're not, obviously, as teachers, even the school itself doesn't have access to everybody's tax returns, do they?
No.
No, no. And so the only way that you can really tell is if they have qualified for free and reduced lunch. So just a little lesson for when you do all of these demographic things in your student teaching. Okay. No more than 5 pages for your context for learning. It's not going to take that much. Prepare prior to teaching your lessons. Identify a learning segment, so that's your unit. Identify a central focus. So that would be a learning goal, a formative question. Analyze language demands. As I said, we'll talk about that in another series. Write your lesson plans. Now, when you write your lesson plans, there is no one specific template that is used by EdTPA. Okay. You may use, and we recommend that you use the short GCU template. Now, there is a newer GCU template, but it's like 7 pages long, and you only get 5 pages for your lesson plan. So you may want to use the short template, and the reason why I suggest the GCU template is because It has all of the elements that you are going to need for your lesson plans. If you use your school's template, that's okay too, but you have to check your handbook and make sure that it includes all of the components that they are going to be looking for in your lesson plan. Do not go online and try to get a simplified lesson plan. That's not going to work out for you. Instructional materials, no more than 5 pages per lesson plan. So that would include worksheets, exit and entrance. Well, that would be under assessments. It would include anything that you're using for your lessons. Assessments, you need to put in blank copies of all written assessments. So you will need to know what exit or entrance questions you're going to ask. You will need to know what your final assessment is going to be, and you will need to provide that to EdTPA as part of the planning. The commentary itself should be no more than 9 single-spaced pages. As I said, you will get a template. And the template, sorry, the template will ask you questions and guide you.
I have a question.
Yes.
So the assessments you say that we upload all the blank copies from, are they specifically geared towards that one student we're videotaping, or the entire class?
That one student.
So this whole thing is just based on pretty much one student.
That is correct.
Okay, that makes life a lot easier.
Yes. Special ed is often one of the more difficult classes to actually teach. But in terms of EdTPA, they understand that a lot of times you're dealing with students that are working on very different things.
Right, all different students with all different.
In different ways. You could.
Right. That's why you have to be certified in all those tests.
That's right.
Okay, that makes sense.
You know, I was in a resource room.
Mhm.
At any one time, I could have up to 15 students in there, all working on something different.
Right.
So it wasn't exactly a class.
Right. Like the class I work in is 9th through 12th graders, and they're all in different subjects. So that's why I'm like, this might be difficult if I have to videotape three kids. That was my biggest question, is because we only have 8 kids in our class. So I guess that alleviates a lot of stress, knowing that you can just do it based on one student.
Yeah, you're going to choose one student, and that's who you're going to work with for EdTPA.
Great. Good to know.
Yeah. So, see, I'm glad you came tonight. We
Yes.
have alleviated one fear. Okay. Task 2, instructing and engaging students in learning. So for this one, you're going to have the video and an instructional commentary. Now, the commentary is going to be about the same as what you saw for planning. Okay, no more than 6 single-spaced pages responding to the prompt. So you're dealing with another template. For the video, and we'll go over this in more depth, both now in PAST, and also when you get into your student teaching, you need to get permission for video recording. Now, there is a fail-safe for this, and that is if your school at the beginning of the year sends out a standard permission slip in their student handbook for parents to sign so that they can put the student's image on the website and all of that. And most schools do it because they need permission to put up the sports teams and the chorus and the band and all of that kind of stuff. Then it is not necessary to get another permission. Okay? Now people have asked me, what do you do with those permission slips? Here's your answer. You put them in a drawer in your home. You leave them there. You will not be sending them to EdTPA. Please do not send them to GCU. As an instructor, I can tell you I do not want to go through your permission slips. You only keep them in case someone ever asks about your permission to record these students. And after 3 years, you can get rid of them. You will examine your plans for learning. Now, identify lessons to video record. I would video record all of your lessons because you never know when that aha moment is going to strike. Okay? And you don't ever want to end a day or a session saying, oh man, he got it. I wish I could have videotaped that. That was so cool. Do you know what I mean? So we recommend that you videotape all of your lessons. Become friendly with the IT tech at your school. Bring them food. Whatever it takes to get their help with this. Okay? Baked goods always works. Okay. Complete your video recording and then view and select your clips very carefully. Now, once you finish student teaching, you do not have to turn in your EdTPA right away. Usually, people will take a week or two. That way you have time to go through your commentaries again, make sure everything is the way you want it to be, and then you can choose your video clips after your student teaching is over. Nothing you send to your instructor is going to go to EdTPA. That is between you and your instructor. Okay? So we don't turn it in for you. You will need to register and make an account on the EdTPA website. Now, when you do that, they are going to ask you for $300. That has nothing to do with GCU. We don't get any of that money. It is Pearson that wants you to pay for taking the test. If you cannot afford to do that right away, you do not have to. We have all of the materials that you will need to do your EdTPA on the PLN. So if they've got it on their site, we've got it on our site. In fact, we've got more than they have. Task 3, assessing students' learning. So for this, you are going to choose an assessment that you're going to analyze. And don't worry about completed by the whole class. That's generic. You will evaluate. So you'll define the evaluation criteria and you will analyze the student work. Submit how you will evaluate student learning, analyze student work from the assessment to identify patterns of learning in the class. and we will see that, okay? So if you're working with a focus student and your focus student can add numbers but has a terrible time with subtraction, that might be a pattern that you would see across an assessment. And then that's one of the things that you would need to address. You will select student work samples, so 3 work samples, and submit the feedback on those work samples for your focus student. So you have the assessment that you're going to analyze, and then 3 examples of your student's work. Again, you don't need 3 focus students, just the 1. Finally, Finally, assessment commentary. Respond to the prompts. Include and submit the assessment and show evidence of academic language. Again, we'll talk about that as we move forward. Okay, you don't need to worry about that. Student teaching, we'll talk about that for a minute. We'll be talking about it more in our 5th meeting together, in our last meeting together. Teacher candidates must be enrolled in student teaching courses along with student teaching. So it's very similar to what you've already had, okay? You'll have discussion forums, you'll have EdTPA instead of the teacher work sample, reflections, and 4 evaluations along with the documentation of your hours. And these are all things we can talk about. In fact, I think I'm not going to talk about them tonight. I think we'll talk about them at another time. And that we'll definitely talk about it another time. Okay, some resources. This is where you would register for EdTPA. The resources can also be found on the PLN, and so that's where I would start in any search for resources. And this is what the PLN looks like. You should all know this place by now. And okay. So steps to take now. Review the PLN resources. Go ahead and select your assessment handbook. Familiarize yourself with the handbook and with the rubrics. Practice filming, even if it's just at home. Prepare to register on Pearson. We don't do the teacher timeline anymore. We give you a checklist instead. And there will continue to be, once you are in your courses, there will continue to be EdTPA support webinars. Okay. Here we are. There are 2 of us that are clinical practice mentors. Now, Dr. Pickens is not around for the summer. She is in the process of having a baby, but she will be back in the fall, I believe. But here you have my name and my phone number and my email. My suggestion is you can reach me through my email. You can reach me through the PLN. I get a copy of everything that you write on the PLN forums. Or you can call me. Now let me be very clear. I live in Michigan. I do not live in Arizona. Do not call me at 1 in the morning thinking that it's actually only 10 o'clock because I'm in Arizona. That has happened. As Queen Victoria once said, I was not amused. In any case, I'm happy to take any other questions that you might have. Anything else? Okay. If there are no more questions, then I will let you go about your evening. And I expect that I will see some of you hopefully tomorrow night. Now, tomorrow night is going to be at 6:30. Watch carefully because I have meetings. I'm listening to dissertation presentations all day tomorrow. If it goes late, I may have to start later, but we'll see what happens. Thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it. And as I said, I will post a copy of this presentation tomorrow in the Zoom meeting forum.
Thank you.